Well, here we are. It is Friday, May 23rd, 2025, and this is the weekly video. I hope some of you had a chance to take a look at the Brunk sale that we did the video on this week for Iris Court. If you're an American furniture buyer or you're interested in American decorative art or the federal period, classicals, furniture, and all that, we posted that a couple of days ago. I know a lot of you watched it, but if you've missed it, go back and check it out. It'll also be on the weekly newsletter page as well. It'll be posted over there. And it's on the Patreon page as well. So just in case you didn't see it, it's such a great place, and the furniture was so extraordinary. And now this week, there's been a lot going on. A lot of things sold this week, as you know. Revere Auctions had their sale. They had a very successful sale, I think. Leland Little had a sale. Dreweatts finished up over in the UK and so forth, and they had good results. And there were a few bargains, of course, that went through. There always are in every auction. But before I get started, I got off the phone a little while ago with a friend of mine in Italy named Carlo Santi, and he has a sale coming up, and we always cover Carlo's sale. So he used to work at Katawiki and things, and he decided to go out on his own, which was, I think, a very wise thing to do. He's an extremely straightforward guy. I always like Carlo. He doesn't fool around. He's very honest with things. If you have a question, he'll be happy to answer them for you. And I urge people, when new auction houses show up, that come on the scene, even when they're in Italy, it's a little bit of a distance. You want to check them out because you want to support new auctioneers that are doing a good job, because so many of them are not today. And that kind of thing. And he and I talked about that a bit on the phone today. He's very up on the sale he's got. And I want to go right into it, because he got a collection. I want everybody to pay attention to this. He got a collection of a very old collection of primarily Kangxi period blue and white porcelains from Milan, from Genoa, excuse me. His sale's in Milan. I got confused for a second there. Apparently it was a very prominent Italian family, and they had a palace of some kind, or he called it a castle. At any rate, they had a Kangxi collection that was probably started back in the 19th century. People don't often think of Italy as being a place to find good Chinese art. There's a lot of good Chinese art in Italy. It was a major trading center, as you all know, and there was a lot of wealth in Italy, and a lot of Italian collectors were out there early on, just like the British, accumulating things. I know from my own trips to Italy with my wife and so forth up in the Veneto, you see some really nice Chinese pieces tucked away. As a matter of fact, there's a the last time there was a very nice Chinese antique shop in Venice, Italy, of all places. I was so thrilled to see it. She had nice things too. At any rate, this is an interesting sale, and you do want to check it out. You can check it out here at the Marco Polo website, or you can do it on Live Auctioneers. I loaded up the images on Live Auctioneers because that's where I started my day. But if you want to save some money on fees and so forth, you want to register at his auction house directly, and he'll help you with shipping and whatever you need to do after the sale if you buy something. A lot of these auction houses sort of leave you high and dry once you buy it. It's sort of like, here's a list of shippers, good luck. He'll put you in touch with people and help you get the stuff out of there just fine, and help you with the paperwork and so forth. It's not a big deal. All right, now I want to jump into it here. This is just some of the stuff that's in the sale. I'm going to scroll through it first to give you an idea how much there is. There's a lot of stuff in the sale. It's a pretty big auction. 463 lots in this auction, which you don't see a lot of 463 lot Asian art auctions anymore. Most of them are 150 to 200 and so forth. And there's a lot of good material in here. I'm going to scroll through this to give you some idea what's in here. And all of this, nearly all of this stuff is from collections in Italy. There's a very large coral carvings are very popular in Italy, and he always has them. He always manages to get a good selection of coral. And in this sale, there are a number of very nice coral figures, included Hodai figures, the standard root figures and so forth, standing figures, Kuan Yins, Chinese beauties, all that. Some very nice coral necklaces. There's quite a bit of jade in here. Most of it, from what I can see, is 19th century and maybe some 18th century. And there may be a little early 20th in there, but most of the jade looked pretty good. There's some nice snuff bottles here at the beginning of the sale, and there are more snuff bottles at the end of the sale. These are some of the blue and white pieces, and I'm going to go through them. There's some rare birds in here, some good Blanc de Chine wares, some Japanese things, so some Femme Vert. There's a little bit of everything. I don't want to sound like I'm overselling it, but I thought this looks like a very, very nice auction. And so let's jump into some of the individual lots. One of the things that really jumped out at me first is this jar. It measures a little over 18 inches in height, about 19 inches tall. It's a Ming jar, 16th century, beautifully done. But look at the pattern on it with these coiled chimeras and going in circles all over it. And apparently he did some research on this and found out that there's one very much like it in the Topkapi Museum collection, which is not a surprise because this is now in Italy. In Turkey, it's not that far away, and it was in that trading route. So there you go. Very classic type. It's got a repair at the top. It doesn't bother me in the least because I love the pattern on this thing, and the decoration on it is quite exceptional. There's a picture of the bottom of it. This is a nice pot, and it's very big, estimated at 7,000 to 10,000 euros. And is starting price is sort of the low estimate. That's how they have to do it over there. But is it worth it? Yeah, it's absolutely worth it. I think it is anyway. I think this should be worth 10 to 15,000 US, but I think it's a very, very attractive porcelain in a very unusual pattern with a mate in a major collection that was established back in it was brought in when it was new, obviously. But this is a very unusual type, not the kind you typically see in the West. And then there's also a very nice pair of Famille Rose small jardinières. I'm going to get back to the blue and white in a minute, but I thought these were so pretty. They're late Qing, early Republic, somewhere in there, but they're done in relief. The bamboo is in relief off the piece. And so is the rock and all that sort of thing. These are awfully nice, and I love the stands. I think the stands are absolutely elegant. So you want to check that out. There's a mark on the bottom. The drain holes have been plugged. That's not a repair. These have drain holes. These were made as planters, and the drain holes have been plugged. So it's either late Qing or Republic. So you can unplug them if you want, but if you want to put plants on them, I would suggest you not, because you're going to end up wrecking your furniture, or put a dish under them. And then there's this. This is a very interesting thing. It's a Kosometsuki incense burner. These are the kind of things you don't see very often. You only find these kinds of pieces in very old collections. And this is a Kosometsuki incense burner. And there's the top of it lifts off. It has its original box and so forth. This is a really, really nice example. Beautifully done. I love the Fu line. There's the interior of it. It's been used, of course. But, 16th century, awfully nice piece of porcelain and a very rare type. You don't see them very often. If you think about it, if you go look them up, you're not going to find many of these. You're not going to find many of these out there. If you can find, well, you'll be able to find one maybe. But the big auction houses, I can't recall seeing one of these in a long time. And the estimate is very modest, 750 to 950 euros with an opening starting bid of 850. I think it's worth that all day long. This looks like it should be worth $2,500 to $3,500. It's an awfully nice piece of porcelain. I really, really like that. And then hopping along over to this Kangxi charger with the lotus leaf interior. This is a big platter. This is it's a basin, actually. It's a bowl, but beautifully decorated with these lovely big lotus lappets coming out that are, the terminals on the tops of them are all shaped in the form of Dreweatts. And then in the center, you have the phoenix standing on a rocky outcropping surrounded by blossoming flowers. There is, of course, a little fritting on the edges. You get that with almost all Kangxi basins of this size. This is a nice big piece. It's 14 inches in diameter, almost 15 inches. It's a big, big piece. I think it's awfully nice. And the estimate is 800 to 1,200 euros with a 800 euro opening bid. It's a very nice example. And again, this is from that collection I mentioned at the beginning from Genoa. And then you have a whole bunch of miniatures, 3 pairs of miniatures. They have their lids. They still have their lids on them. Nice examples. We've seen these before. And as we've talked about many times, miniatures are sort of a subcategory of collecting unto themselves. I particularly love miniatures, and a lot of people collect them and so forth because they're fun to look at. And it's a reduction, of course, a much larger vase. There are much larger jars that were also made at the same time. And they're estimated at, what's the estimate on these? 1,000 to 1,500 euros. Sounds very reasonable. You're looking at, I always break them down. You got 3 pairs. Each pair should be worth 500. So you got $1,500 in pairs minimum right there. So there's your estimate. And over to this nice looking pair of Kangxi jars. A well-known pattern. We've seen this pattern on assorted different shapes, canister shapes, and so forth. Here they are on a pair of sort of chanchu ping or pear-shaped vases with these nice acanthus leaves going up the necks and so forth. Good high foot on them. They look fine. The bottoms look good. Estimated at $1,000 to $1,500, and they measure around 10 inches tall. So they're decent size. And they're estimating them Carlo estimated them at about $600-700 a piece, which I think is right there. They should bring that. And they're a pair on top of it. And pairs are always wonderful to have. And then these are, I think, some of my favorites in the sale. This and that jar at the beginning. I love these shapes, this sort of ovoid shape with their lids. Which is very interesting. They still have them. It's a wonderful pattern. We've seen this pattern before, but on different shapes. And here you're seeing it on these sort of ovoid tall vases with lids, nicely done, good looking color, and the cobalt. I don't see anything wrong with them. They look absolutely fine. You want to always get condition reports, of course, but I think these are terrific. And they're a foot tall, basically, 29.3 centimeters, which is, it's a foot. You throw them on a stand and it's over a foot. These are beautiful. They're estimated at 2,500 to 3,500 euros. Very fair price. I like these a lot. These are elegant. I love the fact that there's so many pairs in the sale. There's a number of pairs. You don't see pairs very often because they often get, you know how it goes, they often get split up. Families divide estates and one sibling takes one vase of a pair and the other one gets the other one, and that's the end of the pair. Here you still have them. All right, and they look great on a big bookcase or on a mantle or on tables, whatever. And then there's this rouleau vase. This is a big rouleau vase. It's 19 inches tall, Kangxi period, classical rocky landscape scene, light reflecting off the rocks, lohans going across the natural stone bridge. And then you have the Greek key border and the Rouillé head border at the top, and then the rain border above that on the sort of flanged top. And these look absolutely fine. Estimate 7,000 to 10,000. It's right in there. $7,900 opening bid. It's a beautiful, beautiful vase. Like I said, there's a lot of Kangxi wares in here. Hold on a second. Okay, there we go. I guess the do not call list doesn't work very well. We get spam calls here all day long. I don't know why, but at any rate, it's crazy. Let's see here. This is a nifty vase. It's an unusual looking vase. It's got the kirin in the center here, but it's got this unusually very attractive long neck on it. And this vase is about a foot tall, as I recall, 10 inches or so. I'll check it in a second. But I like the form a lot, and I like the decoration. And I think the expression on the Kirin's face it's like he's up to something. His eyes are darting off to the side, and the cobalt colors look very, very good, and nice photographs all the way around. There's the bottom of it. Looks absolutely fine, and it's estimated at $1,500 to $2,500, $1,500 to £2,500. A euro's a little more than a dollar, or the dollar's a little more than a euro, I guess. But at any rate, it's a nice looking thing. It's 30 centimeters high, so it's exactly a foot tall. It's a beautiful piece of porcelain, though. Again, unusual forms. This is what I said it before, it's what you find in old collections. And then here you have something. This is very unusual. If you buy Wan Li wares, check this out. This is they call it a crack dish or Wan Li period dish with these sort of Buddhist mandalas, flaming mandala coming off the center. It's a very unusual pattern for these. This is an early Wan Li dish. This is not one of the later ones that the bottom is covered with sand that they shipped off to Holland and all over Europe. This is an earlier type. And you know it because you flip it over and there's the bottom of it. Very clean, very unusual. Most of the Wan Li pieces that everybody sees with any regularity have sand all over the back. The early ones tend not to. They fired them with more care. They tried to keep the kiln grit off. And in this example, they were very, very successful. This is a nice sort of second half of the 16th century dish. I like it a lot. And it's estimated at just $200 to $300. 200 to 300 euros. It's a very rare type. It's not enormous. It's only about 8 inches, so the shipping should be reasonable on it. No, it's about 10 inches diameter. It's 10 inches wide. But if you collect Wan Li wares and later Ming wares, and you've seen enough of the sort of standard landscape scene you see in the middle of these, this is a very unusual one. Looks like it was done maybe for the Buddhist market or something, or with Buddhist designs in it. The outer border is very typical, but the interior decoration is very unusual. It's an unusual kind. All right, and then over to this. There's another piece. This is the coral I was talking about of the seated Buddha. This is a beautifully done carving. Beautifully done. He's got his horsehair brush, kid climbing over his shoulder, and all that. And that's sort of how they depicted, the Buddhas especially in the Ming Dynasty. They would have the rhino horn Buddhas. They have children climbing up Buddha, having fun with them. This is a nice one, late 19th century example, beautifully done, estimated at 4,000 to 6,000 euros because it's a very, very good one, and it's good size. It's about 5 inches long, and meticulously carved and polished. And then over to this, there's a bunch of biscuit. There's several good biscuit wares in the sale, and you have these the two ho-ho boys with Vert decoration on them. There's a nice deep aubergine in here, and they look like they're in great shape. Always check the fingertips when you look at statues of figures, and the quality of the facial expressions. These have great faces. Check out the face. Let me see if he shows a detail of the face. No, he doesn't. Okay, that's good enough. There we go. Those are great faces. Sometimes the biscuit wares, the facial expressions aren't very strong. These are extremely strong, and they look awfully happy. This is a very nice set. I like it a lot. I think the faces are great, very human, and they're good size too. These are 10 inches tall, they're they're 11 inches tall. Excuse me. These are almost 28.8 inches, so they're 1 centimeter off from being a foot tall. So these are big figures, and I think the estimate's extremely reasonable. 8 to 1,200 euros. I think that's very, very. I think that seems underestimated. And then over to this, there's a bunch of good bronzes in the sale. Most of them are 16th century or a little bit earlier. There's maybe a few early 18th century ones in the sale. If you like bronzes, you do want to take a look at them. Here's an example. With inlaid coral and so forth. Manjushri example with all the arms. Nice lotus base on it. Estimated at a fairly modest estimate, 750 to 950 euros. But it's not huge. It's only about 4 inches tall. It's a fairly small one, but very delicate. And of course, when it's small, it's easier to ship. And then hopping along, there's a couple of good paintings. This one I liked a lot. It's an 18th century painting of horses, and it's signed by Qin Shenfeng, the artist. But a beautiful scene. And this is all very, in the manner of Giuseppe Castiglione, Lan Xining, the artist who was, of course, the very famous court painter. He made painting horses in landscapes like this. They were always popular, but he made them really popular because he did them. And this is sort of along that same idea with these horses along a lake in a wooded scene. And there's an inscription at the top and so forth. Wonderful painting, estimated at 3,000 to 5,000 euros, and an opening bid of 3,000 euros. And then lastly is this: if you're a Yixing teapot buyer, this is a nice one. It's a pewter teapot with a Yixing liner, jade handle, spout, and lid. And it looks like it's in very good shape. This is a nice form. It's very elegant, subdued, elegant form. It's got flowers incised into it. Get a hold of them. Make sure the liner has no damage to it, or if it does, is it the top or at the bottom? Because the Yixing liners, if they get damaged, they don't hold tea very well anymore, and they should be functional, hopefully. And you don't want it leaking out and whatnot. But they bring a lot less money. But this teapot could bring $1,200 to $1,500. The estimate is 400 to 600 euros, so it's a reasonable estimate. But anyway, that's it. There's a whole lot of stuff in the sale, but go check it out. My friend Carlo's sale. Check it out. I think you'll find it worth looking at. He's good about answering questions and all that. So there you are. All right. So now we're going to take a look at some results from last week. So hold on a second. And on to some results for the week. Here we are. This is the Leland Little sale. It wasn't a huge sale. But a fair bit of material was in here that was quite notable, that I liked a lot. I left bids on some things. I got smoked across the board. One of the lots I liked in particular was this. You may remember this. This was an incense burner that was in a sale previously there, and nobody bid on it. I was stunned. Nobody bought it. I thought at the time, I commented. I said it should have brought $600 or $800. And they ran it through again, and that's what it brought. It brought $550 plus the premium, or around $700, which was perfectly fine. This is a nice piece of pottery, beautiful ferroir decoration. I love the serpent handles on it, as I said, but last week, and this time it found a new home. So there you go. It's a big piece. It's about 15 inches tall. It was worth buying. It was a nice thing. And then there was the plate. They thought it was late Ming. I thought it was probably Kangxi period. Regardless, it did fine. We had talked about it last week. Here's the back of it. I got a hold of Kendall. I said, I think it's a Kangxi dish. And she had somebody there that told her they thought it was late Ming. So there we go. It's perfectly fine. Either way, it's a nice old dish. It had beautiful color. And it ended up selling for about $1,450 with the premium. Absolutely worth. That was a nice thing. And then the Meiping vase. This was a beautiful example, and it was unusually large. And we talked about it because we thought it would bring a very strong price, and it did. It ended up at about $19,500 with the premium, because big Meipings like this don't turn up often. They're extremely unusual. Most of the vases in this shape that you see that were done during the late Ming and very earliest part of the Qing dynasty tend to be under 12 inches, 11 inches, 10 inches, sort of, this size. This was a big one. This was a much, much bigger one, coming in at, repeat that, 17 and a half inches tall. It was a very nice example. Really, really terrific. And then hopping along over to this was the Dreweatts sale. They had a couple of days worth of sales, and they had a nice result all across the board. Pretty much, Buck is getting excited. Buck, what are you doing? There must be somebody out front. Go ahead, Buck. Go greet them. And sorry about that. There's a lot going on in the street there. We had a storm last night, by the way. We had a neighbor said that we had 50-mile-an-hour winds, 60-mile. I'm not surprised. I was up early today, and it was absolutely howling out. I got up a little after 4 this morning, and the trees were going sideways as soon as we had some light off the ocean. It was unbelievable. Rain pouring down, and now it's partly cloudy, partly sunny, and the wind is gone. But early this morning, you could feel the house moving. It was blowing that hard. It was really, really windy. At any rate, all back to normal. Huge waves off the ocean. Huge waves. All right, now getting into the Dreweatts sale. Let's see what we had here. Excuse my dog; he's very excited. There must be somebody out front. They had this. We didn't mention these in the preview. I know a number of you saw them because I had a couple of people inquire about them. And they brought the price we told a few people they would bring, because they were very unusual and big. Big pair of second half of the 19th century silver dragon vases with dragons on them, Meiping form. These are really unusual and beautifully done, meticulously done. Let's see, how tall were these? I forgot the exact height. 34 centimeters. So they were 14 inches tall a piece. And they ended up selling for about $29,000 plus the buyer's premium, 22,000 pounds, $29,000 plus the premium. So you're up around $38,000 for the pair, but very, very unusual. And apparently they were quite heavy. But they absolutely beautiful, and they're a mirror pair, which makes them very desirable. You have the dragons are facing one another; they're not both going in the same direction. That's a matched pair. This is a mirror pair, which are the most desirable type of pair there is. And there you go. Now, heading over to this, they had some nice seat covers. These were very, very nice examples. Late 18th, early 19th century, judging by the style. Notice the negative space. There's a certain elegance to these. These are awfully nice. And they look to be in pretty good shape in general, I have to say. And they ended up selling for about $3,000 or $4,000 a piece, which I think is right in there. The final price on them was even more money. $10,000 plus the premium, 10,700 plus the premium, so about 13 or 14,000. So you're talking about roughly $4,500 per panel. But absolutely great examples, and early 18th to early. They dated them Qinlong to Jiajing period. And they're quite good on dating, so I'll rely on them for that. They do a good job there at Dreweatts. And then you have the dragon robe. This is a great dragon robe, Daoguan period, with all these metallic threads, silk metallic thread, beautiful piece of court embroidery, just elegant. This is a really elegant robe. And notice the wave border at the bottom, the wave skirt. It's extremely developed all the way up. It's about about a foot and a half of waves at the bottom. And here's a good look at the top. And the threads were all in great shape too. That's the other thing. I didn't see a lot of pulls or yanks on all these gold threads, because these are all gold threads looping around in here so beautifully, so curvilinear. Really, really nice looking robe. And there's the sleeve with the horse cuffs on the ends. And what did they end up selling? It ended up selling for 24,000 plus the premium. So it came in all in and done at around 3 times 7, about $32,000 for the robe. But a great example. Silks have really hung on. It's you're seeing a trend here with silks. And then this was a little bronze brush incense burner tripod sensor that I talked about in the preview. It's such an unusual example. Notice the color. There's almost a bluish tinge to the bronze. Somebody I know went to the preview and said he didn't know what to make of it. He said it was so unusual. And the marbleized patina at the top, it looks like faux bois. And then these bronze arms coming down. I just think this was a terrific thing. Unfortunately, it's missing its cover. It would have had a screen cover on it, obviously, but as an incense burner. But a very interesting and unusual example. And it ended up selling for, basically $3,900 US plus the premium, so around just about $5,300 for the bronze. But a really nice example. Certainly looks to be an 18th century one, early 18th century probably, but exceptionally unusual. Again, European houses, old English houses up in where Dreweatts is, they get into some amazing collections. Sort of like our friend Carlo in Italy. These are the pockets where great material still could be found. All right, and then over to this. This is the second day of the sale, and it also had a good result. Now, hold on a second. They had these. These were very nice. I was happy to see these do well. This is a pair of, they call them Kakeyamon type lions, Edo period, or probably first half of the 19th century. They're very much in the Kakeyamon style or school, but amazingly well enameled. The decoration on these were great. The way they applied the enamels, the use of black against the yellow, and the facial expressions. And you'll note that there's almost no wear to the enamels at all. These were in remarkably good condition all the way through. Absolutely beautiful. And they ended up, and it was good to see something Japanese bring a strong price. They brought 12,000 plus the premium, or around $15,500, $16,000 for the pair. But very, very attractive. And they measured about 9 inches, 26 centimeters. So they measured about 10 inches tall. These were pretty good size lions. So they're about that big. Absolutely great things. Worth it. Every penny. And then these, now bronzes, if you're a bronze buyer and you didn't buy at the sale, I think you might have missed out. They were lotting up Yuan to Ming Dynasty bronzes like this and selling them in groups. And here you have three of them, and all three of them sold for just $800 plus the premium, or about $1,000 for the three bronzes. Very, very, very reasonable. That was a very reasonable thing. We've seen individual bronzes like this on eBay. They sell for $600 to $900 a piece, and here you have the whole lot went for about the price of, a little more than the price of one. The biggest one, let's see, is was over a foot tall. Was 12 and a half inches, 13 inches tall. The one in the middle. So the bronzes were one of the relative bargains of the day there. Of course, it's nice if you can go to the sale, then you can sit there and you can really hone in on the stuff. But their photographs are good enough that you should be able to make a good decision. And they had a number of bronzes that were very reasonable. Go over and check the results out on Live Auctioneers or at their website. And you'll see. But it's a great way to get a sense of the market, especially in Europe, for things, because a lot of people were paying attention to this sale of theirs. And then you have this Middle Eastern form ewer. They just dated it as, I don't think they dated it. Did they even bother dating this? They just called it Qing Dynasty. Let's take a look at it. It looks like a Kangxi example. Yeah. If it's not Kangxi, it's just slightly out of the period. Not by much. It's got a Chen mark on it, but a very nice ewer, and it sold for 29. It's Kangxi, $2,900 plus the premium, so around 30, about 3,900 or so dollars US. But an unusual form. With the hand, with the spout appears to be completely intact. The handle is intact, and it looks like the original lid. So if one of you bought that, let me know if you got a condition report on it and whether or not it was perfect, because that would have been a very, very reasonable buy. All right, and then hopping along over to what's the next sale that's coming up? Oh, Revere sale. Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit. They had some nice things. This was one of my favorite things in the sale, and the only reason I didn't go after it was that the shipping on it was going to be about $300 or $400 or more to get it here because of the size. And if you didn't bother to look up the size of it, it was 17 inches tall and 2 feet wide. This was a big bronze, and I talked about it in the preview a few weeks ago because I thought the work on it was so good. I thought it was so beautiful. Absolutely great example. And you could use this. You could use it as a hibachi brazier. Wonderful example. Congrats to whoever got it. And then this was very nice. There were some very good netskis and okimono in this sale. And this was one of my favorite. It's a walnut carved by Kurumi with all the zodiac animals on it, the horses and the lions. And there's probably a monkey or two on here. There's a wild boar and so forth. I thought this was just a great carving and beautiful. There's the dragon on the back. Here's a rabbit and so forth, but meticulously done and has a beautiful finish on the walnut shell. Just absolutely beautifully finished. And you think about, imagine trying to carve a walnut. All right, sold for $1,500 plus premium, or about $2,000. Wonderful example, very, very pretty, nice patina, Meiji period. I would think, did they even date it? No, it was Edo period, excuse me, it was Edo period, because he died in 1854, so it had to be Edo period, but a beautiful, beautiful example. And it was by Toriusai Kozan Kurumi, or the Kurumi is the form. Anyway. The jar. I think this was a bargain. I thought this was one of the sleepers in the sale. I guess there was a little debate about whether or not people thought it was a transitional one or a 19th century one. I'm not sure what the debate was about. To me, I don't see anything on this that makes me think that it was a 19th century pot. The paste on the foot, the decoration, all the way around, it looked absolutely fine to me as a transitional to Shunzi period jar. And somebody picked it up for $1,600 plus the premium. That might have been one of the steals of the day. And then over here, this was very nice. This export plate for the Japanese market, beautifully done, late Ming, with an inscription on it. Went for $550 plus premium. Had a very reasonable estimate, only $150 to $300. And ended up going for around, about $700, $725 with the premium. All right, and then the big silk. Big silk ended up going through at around about $4,400, sort of the upper end of the estimate. This was a wonderful embroidery, and look at the size of the dragons. Now you have to realize these dragons are each about 5 or 6 feet tall. So you could have made a room with it. It's a late Qing examples that came out of a very good collection in the Midwest. It was part of, I believe, this is the same family that donated a whole bunch of robes and rank badges to an institution out there that Mr. Jacobson at Revere Auctions, that was just sold off, wrote his 2-volume book set on the on Chinese imperial robes and Chinese silks. All right. Anyway, it did fine. It did fine in the end. And then over to this, Anamis wares. This was a Lotus charger, Vietnam. How big was this here? Is the size on here? It should be in here somewhere. There it is, 14 3/4 inches. And this is a 15th century plate. It's a very nice plate. Beautifully done. Look, they always look, the Anamis wares from the 15th and 16th century always look like Yuan dynasty from China. The way they did their style of decoration is very, very reminiscent of Yuan porcelains, and I always like them. And they do that very interesting brown glaze on the bottom to clean it up. You see these, and somebody emailed me they owned one of these, and he thought that because it had this brown gunk on the back that it must have been a fake. And I said, no, that's the way they did them. That was a technique that was used at the time. Unfortunately, they still use it today, but the brown gunk they put on is much more opaque, and it's fairly easy to spot. All right, but this sold just fine. It was only estimated at $500 to $1,000, which was very low, and ended up going for about $3,000 with the premium. And then at the end, we're going to talk about this couple of paper cut resist decorated sung bowls. This one it was estimated at $200 to $400, and we talked about these a bit because I had a lot of inquiries through the service on these. All the sung bowls. Everybody wanted to know, what were they going to bring and that sort of thing. And I think last week we said they should bring $4,000 or $5,000. And several of them did this because that's what they bring. We're not just guessing. If you look at auctions around the world, the big auction houses, mid-size auction houses, that's sort of the range that they always seem to bring. And with the premium, this one ended up at about $5,500. And then there's one more, this one here, this tortoiseshell tea glaze bowl. This brought a little more than I thought it would, but it was beautifully glazed. I give them that. The exterior was nicely done. This is part of that Jacobson collection. And there's the interior. The spotting on the interior was quite good. There was a little bit of wear here and there, but nothing disastrous, certainly. It had a nice dry finish. The glaze was a nice dry glaze, and the spots were irregular but well-spaced. Had all the things on it that somebody would want. And this ended up going for about $6,500, $7,000. We had thought this would bring around $5,000. So it brought it all in and all done. It brought a couple thousand more than we thought, but you can't get it always all the time. Anyway, I thought this was a beautiful example, and I guess Revere was very happy with the sale. Sean out there sent me an email this morning and telling me that, sort of reporting on the sale, and overall they were very, very pleased. And they do a good job out there. They do a good job with illustrating, and they're honest about their descriptions. And when you see the estimates, they put these low estimates on, and that's just their way of saying this. None of the stuff's being reserved. Because a lot of auction houses do that. Or you like Leland Little, they estimate things at $50 to $25,000. It's a pretty big range. And what they're really saying is there probably isn't much of a reserve on most of the stuff. So once you learn all that kind of thing, then you can sort of mosey along with it. So that's that. All right, so that's it for the week. But overall, it was a good week. There are other things we're going to have to get into and cover. There's a couple of sales coming up that we're going to talk about next week, and there'll be more results, of course, over the weekend. Anything new that's popped up will be on the Global and Patreon pages. If you're a Patreon subscriber, check out the watch page video we put up on the site. We actually got to it today because we were tied up earlier in the week doing some bunch of things. And there was a nice paper that we posted over there. If you haven't downloaded it yet, you should do it. It's about Yuan Dynasty ceramics. And it's a real interesting, well-written paper. It was somebody's thesis, and it's very readably written. A lot of theses aren't very readable. Uh, they're very dry. This one has a good flow to it, and it's not terribly long. I think it's an excerpt of a thesis. It's not a full, it's not a 400-page thesis, but it's well written. It's a well written story, and that's about it. All right. So everybody have a great weekend. We're hoping for spring to finally come. We're not sure yet because we have guests tomorrow night for dinner, and I'd much prefer to be eating outside, but I don't think we're going to be because it's only going to be around 55 degrees here on the coast. It's the way it is, and then suddenly the weather will break and it'll be sunny and beautiful, and that'll be it. But at any rate, that's where we are. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't so far. Leave a comment, and we'll see you next week. We'll see you next week. All right. Bye-bye.